We're now joined here in our Nairobi studio by Dr. Francis Onditi, a Human Sciences Research Council Fellow with the Africa Institute in South Africa. Dr. Onditi, always a pleasure to have you with us. Of course, the G20 Summit meeting is about to get underway, and it reads as a who's list of the most powerful leaders around the world. Talk us through the significance of the meeting, but in particular, its significance for Africa.
I think for us to understand the significance of the G20 that is happening right now in Osaka, Japan, I think there are two important factors that we need to know. One, the most powerful countries in the world, China and the US, they have a lot of multilateral cooperation with the sub-Saharan African countries. China in particular, the trading volume with African countries is ranging in the region of 220 billion US dollar. The US trade volume with sub-Saharan Africa is about 39-40 billion US dollar. So that is significant amount of resource investment that the two countries respectively have invested, or they are in trade relation with the African countries. So we are hoping that with the Osaka summit, two important things that are affecting the international economic trade now that might affect African countries. One is, the unilateralism. We've seen countries getting, more closer to themselves. US being one of the perpetrators of that in the latest, latest trend, and it's not a very good thing, because then when countries run away from multilateralism, we are likely to experience economic shocks, and particularly sub-Saharan African countries who don't have really strong economic base, they might have experienced that. But also there is also the other aspect of the trade wars. The trade war between China and the US that we've seen in the past few years, it's not something good for Africa, Lindy. And the gains, or rather the trade volume that I said earlier, the 220 billion US dollar, for example, between China and Africa, it's likely to erode as a result of that trade war. Because indirectly, when, for example, tariffs are increased on the trade between US and China, who will suffer? The most affected countries are sub-Saharan Africa, for the reason that I've just said before.
And of course, when you point to some of these key issues around multilateralism, around the trade tensions, it seems that the timing of this summit is particularly important. But do you feel as though that there will be significant decisions made at this year's meeting that will impact these global affairs?
Lindy, these are very powerful countries. Don't forget they control 80% of the economic output globally. And they have, 2/3, 75% of the world population is actually represented there. Because of the large countries, the big countries that represent, the globe. So if that is the case, then we are sure the two mentioned problems that are affecting economic outlook right now, unilateralism and trade wars, I think if Donald Trump, President Jinping and other leaders come together, they are likely to get some solutions to these problems. Don't forget China and US have been meeting almost more than 11 times, but they have not struck a deal. Maybe this is an important meeting where the ice can break.
You were just pointing to just how powerful these countries are in terms of global output and all of this. It representing the most powerful countries in the world, it has led to the perception that this is a very exclusive elite meeting. Is that assessment a fair one?
It could be perceived that the G20 are they're controlling much of the economic resources globally. But again, they also play a big role in developing norms, principles and, trading rules that guide the trade. And when rules, norms, and principles are well developed, then we're likely to see countries moving towards multilateralism, which is a desired end, because then even sub-Saharan African countries would benefit. So the perception that they're the most powerful it is quite illogical because without countries who produce largest or who control the economic outlook of the world, it would be hard for rules to be passed. Even those resolutions might not see the light of the day. But with the G20, we are sure that the rules can be developed, but also they can be implemented. And the sub-Saharan African countries will be the beneficiaries of that.
Thank you so much, Dr. Francis Onditi. They're giving us an idea of just what's at stake at this year's G20 Summit, and no doubt African leaders will be paying attention. Erica.